here with a Christian biblical perspective on the Middle East. Since our last regular episode was recorded last Wednesday, so much has happened, and we are going to be covering a lot of that ground as we look at what is taking place currently. I'm so glad you're here with me as we explore the major world events that have unfolded, and these are not ordinary events. They have been a long time coming. They are things that have been in the works for several decades. Indeed, they were being talked about while I was living in the Middle East over 20 years ago. So this is not something that has just been off the cuff. It is literally something that has had decades in the planning, and we are in the midst of some incredible times that have been summed up by a YouTuber named Timmy Turtles, and he's made a great little key recap of the first couple of days of Israel's attack on Iran in this video entitled Lego Tehran. Let's watch this together as we seek to understand all of what is happening. I just need to grab some headphones as well. I'm going to disappear while this is playing, but this will give you a bit of an oversight of what has been taking place over the past few days, and hopefully will be a succinct portrayal of all that is going on. And that is a little bit of a summary for you of all that has taken place. Let me stop sharing my screen. And in Lego format, okay? While that video highlights the ingenuity and daringness of Mossad and the IDF and some of the miraculous victories that God has granted them over the last week, of course, this has come at a high cost for Israel. At least 24 Israelis have been killed, and in the Iranian missile strikes that began 6 days ago, hundreds more have been injured, and thousands more have been displaced from their homes, and millions are spending hours upon hours in their bomb shelters, not knowing what comes next. As Christians, let's stand in prayer for the people of Israel in this difficult hour. Isaiah 41 verse 10 says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you, and I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." That's found in Isaiah 41 verse 10. Later in this episode, I want to look together at the word courage, a word that Israel is exemplifying this week. But let's look next at a Douglas Murray quote from 14 years ago. He was speaking, well, I'll let it explain, but he had foresight that very few Christians, indeed very few members of society as a whole, have in regard to what is currently taking place. Thank God they did it, because nobody else would. What a pertinent statement, he says. And of course, bearing in mind that this was 13, 14 years ago that he engaged practically and informed that union that they were going to be isolated and left alone for this process. Well, why is it that there is such a dearth of those that have an understanding of the times that we live in, and how important it is for us to really explore that? That it took courage 13 years ago, and he's been more vocal ever since. I appreciate Douglas Murray and all that he is standing for. Indeed, much of the world, not just Douglas, but much of the world is quietly thankful that Israel is saving them from the threat of a nuclear Iran. A few comments from world leaders have spilled into the public domain. I'm sure there's many more privately, but Germany's chancellor admitted Israel is doing our dirty work. Even Boris Johnson got in on it, saying, and the former Prime Minister of England got in on it, saying, everyone knows that when the Israelis try to retard the Iranian nuclear weapon program, the Israelis are doing the world a huge service. So why doesn't the British government just come out and say what they believe and what everyone knows? Why don't they support what Israel has done? I'll tell you why. It's all about managing the growing anti-Israeli feeling in the Labour Party, the growing anti-Semitism, I'm afraid, in Labour rank and file, and it's nothing to do with the national interest. The silence of Iran's usually anti-Israel neighbors speaks volumes, doesn't it? Because they also know that they are going to be safer and better off when Iran is disarmed. We can truly say we are seeing a valley of decision opening for the nations of the world. A choice has arrived where nations are having to choose between the light and darkness, good and evil, truth and lies. That reality is on a national level as well as a personal level. There is a valley of Jehoshaphat reality on the ground, nations being divided based on whether they stand on the side of light, good and truth, or darkness, evil and lies. And indeed, this is no more a huge moment than for the POTUS, the President of the United States, who is, of course, the one of the single most important players within the situation at this present moment in time. There is a huge moment of decision for Trump. America is the only country in the world that is in possession of and who has the capability to use the bunker buster bombs necessary to penetrate the hiding places of Iran's nuclear weapons. President Trump, or I should say the not just the nuclear weapons, but the ability for the uranium enrichment, which is deep, deep underground. And President Trump left the G7 conference in Canada early this week to come back and focus on the Iranian situation. Upon his return, and as he entered the US Situation Room yesterday to make world-changing decisions, Trump received a special message from the man he appointed as the US ambassador to Israel just a few months ago, Ambassador Mike Huckabee. He was actually the one who we talked about in the inaugural Israel Matters show. And let me just pause before I read some of this to you. If you haven't subscribed to Israel Matters on YouTube, please go across and do so. Be sure to hit that like button, because we are live. The more people that do that, the more engagement there is with the comments, the more likely it is to be pushed out further and wider than our own natural constituency. So to encourage you to do that. Well, Ambassador Mike Huckabee sent the message to Trump, and it read as follows: God spared you in Butler, Pennsylvania, to be the most consequential president in a century, maybe ever. The decisions on your shoulders I would not want to be made by anyone else. You have many voices speaking to you, sir, but there is only one voice that matters, his voice. I am your appointed servant in this land, and am available for you. Huckabee went on to say, Trump will hear from heaven. No president in my lifetime has been in a position like yours. Not since Truman in 1945. I don't reach out to persuade you, only to encourage you. I believe you will hear from heaven, and that voice is far more important than mine or anyone else's. Huckabee said, the message comes after nearly a full week of strikes between Iran and Israel, with some calls for the US to intervene. As tensions rise in the region, Huckabee said he would stick with his post. And this is what he said. You sent me to Israel to be your eyes, ears, and voice, and to make sure our flag flies above our embassy. My job is to be the last one to leave. Huckabee said, I will not abandon this post. Our flag will not come down. You did not seek this moment. This moment sought you. It is my honor to serve you. What a remarkable statement from an ambassador to the POTUS, the President of the United States, and his understanding that actually where he is at is a role that is for such a time as this. And we know that from the book of Esther. We may touch on that a little bit later in the whole process and looking at what's going on there. Israel could continue to take down Iran on its own. It does rule the airspace now over Tehran, which is the capital of Iran, for those that don't know. But this will go all the much faster if the USA intervenes. The bunker buster bombs that could destroy Iran's Fordo nuclear facility is called the GBU-57A/B Massive Ordnance Penetrator Bomb. It weighs 13,600 kilograms, and only B-2 stealth bombers are configured to carry it. The Times of Israel reports if the US decides to support Israel more directly in its attack on Iran, one option for Washington would be to provide the bunker buster bombs believed necessary to significantly damage the Fordo nuclear fuel enrichment plant built deeply into a mountain. Such a bomb would have to be dropped by an American aircraft, which could have wide-ranging ramifications, including jeopardizing any chance of Iran engaging in Trump's desired talks on its nuclear program. Israeli officials have also suggested that there are other options for it to attack Fordo as it seeks to destroy Iran's nuclear capabilities. But aside from a commando attack on the ground or a nuclear strike, the bunker buster bomb seems the most likely option. It is understood the B-2 bombers have arrived at Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. So the question everyone is asking is, will Trump decide to act in this decisive manner? And what will the ramifications of that be for the whole world? This is a Genesis 12:3 moment for President Trump. I will bless those who bless you. And here is another big question. Will Iran's leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, make it through this week? Trump claims that he saved Khamenei's life on day one of the IDF's operation, but Netanyahu says taking out the Supreme Leader is not out of the question. On Tuesday, Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, directly threatened the life of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, warning him that he could end up like the former Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein, who was killed. Khamenei has sought the death of Israel, but the principle of Proverbs 26:27 says, one who digs a pit will fall into it, and one who rolls a stone, it will come back on him. Psalm 21, verse 11 says, though they plan evil against you and intend you harm, the schemes they devise will not prevail. Lord, may that be the reality in this scenario. Some are saying that a regime change will be destabilizing for the region, but my question is, who could be worse than this supreme leader? His regime has been the single largest sponsor of world terror in the last several decades. The Houthis in Yemen, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the list goes on and on and on. The US and other nations have been talking to Iranians for nearly half a century since the coup and the revolution 46 years ago. And where has that gotten the US? Indeed, where has it got the other nations over the last 50 years? It has gotten them things like American hostages, some of whom were murdered, 609 dead American servicemen at the hands of Iranian proxies in Iraq, chance of death to America. Disarming Iran is certainly a time when Israel and America's interests align. The interests of the whole civilized world, I could say the Judeo-Christian world, are aligned at this moment. We need to be loud and clear about our support and thanks for what Israel is doing. This is preempting nuclear war. Preempting nuclear war, and they have stepped in to do what needs to be done for the safety of the whole world. Israel knows that we cannot stick our heads in the sand. Iran means what they say. They've been seeking to do it through Hamas and Hezbollah since October 7th. They want to send nuclear bombs towards Israel and America, whom they call the little Satan and the great Satan, respectively. I, for one, am thankful for Israel. If you are thankful too, why not take a moment and put it in the comments below as we are live? But there's a scripture found in Romans 15, verse 27, where it says, if you have received of them spiritual things, it's talking about Israel there, you owe it to them in carnal or material things. So we need to be those who are thankful for Israel, thankful for all that they are doing for the safety of the whole world in reality. So please also take a moment to, may I ask for you to click that subscribe button and tap that thumbs up. It really does help to see the content further and wider with the joys of all the YouTube algorithms. Let me read a couple of other verses to you. God is on the throne, and I'm so grateful that that is the reality. Isaiah 33, verse 2 and 3 says, Lord, be merciful to us. We long for you. Be our strength every morning, our salvation in time of distress. At the uproar of your army, the peoples flee. When you rise up, the nations scatter. Let's remember that the Lord says in Jeremiah 32, verse 27, Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is anything too hard for me? Of course, the war is having a huge impact on Iranians who are fleeing Tehran after Trump's tweet yesterday urging them to do so. And there is a huge impact for everyone in Israel as they are in a special state of emergency with schools and most workplaces closed, although those restrictions are beginning to be lifted by Homefront Command in Israel. Let's hear more about the situation on the ground in Israel from an Israeli in just a few moments. We'll be joined by somebody on the ground that's experienced the regular route to bomb shelters. But first, I want to touch base and look at Esther chapter 8, verse 9 through 11. You'll be familiar with the book of Esther. It's talking about when the Jews were in captivity in Persia, in Babylon, across the 127 provinces of Susa, Shushan. That whole region includes Elam, the Medes, the Persians. The Jews were there in exile from their land. And while they were there was a story under the reign of King Xerxes, or Ahashverosh in Hebrew, where they were being persecuted by an individual called Haman. And towards the end of the book, in Esther chapter 8, verse 9 to 11, it says, At once the royal secretaries were summoned. On the 23rd day of the month of Sivan. Now, this is interesting because the 23rd day of the month is actually falling tomorrow. On the calendar, tomorrow is the 23rd of Sivan. And in this verse in Esther, well, it's interesting. Again, let me just kind of parentheses this. There are events in Jewish history that have happened over and over and over again on certain set dates, and the resulting consequences and ramifications of those have been huge. But this date is specific. The 23rd day of the third month, the month of Sivan. They wrote out all Mordecai's orders to the Jews and to the satraps, the governors, and the nobles of the 127 provinces stretching from India to Kush. These orders were written in the script of each province and the language of each people, and also to the Jews in their own script and language. Mordecai wrote, in the name of King Xerxes, in the name of King Ahasuerus, sealed the dispatches with the king's signet ring, and sent them by mounted couriers, who rode fast horses especially bred for the king. The king's edict that was signed and sealed with his seal, with his signet ring, stated and granted the Jews in every city the right to assemble and protect themselves, to destroy, kill, and annihilate the armed men of any nationality or province who might attack them, and their women and their children, and to plunder the property of their enemies. This all took place in the region where the whole world is focused on today. The events in the book of Esther described there began around the years 483 to 482 BC and concluded in March 473 BC. So we have a window of time where there are statements and things that are unfolding there that are fascinating on so many different levels. And the process that unfolds there is quite simply remarkable. And so within the book of Esther, there are a couple of other things, and people all quote the verse in Esther where it says, "Who knows whether you have been born for such a time as this?" But there's a verse that precedes that where Esther asks the king's satrap, the king's personal assistant, if I can put it like that, to enable her to only do what the king requires. She ends up, of course, being in the house of the king, and is the one that's in place to step into the equation there for her to be involved in the securing of the safety of the Jews within Susa and within the 127 provinces. It is quite simply remarkable to see how this does unfold and how effective it is and what takes place as a result. We are meant to be being joined in just a moment by a friend of mine from Israel. It is possible that she is in a bomb shelter and may not be able to join us, but I'm just going to check the notifications here to see if that is the reality. People are saying there is no sound, but I'm hoping you can hear us practically on the ground here with it. And so while we wait for her and see if she does turn up, I'm going to move forward into another area, and we may well come back to her sharing with us. So we have she actually sent me a response that I wanted to read to you all because I thought it was very pertinent for us to take hold of and to see just the kind of the mood within the Israeli society of some of those that are leading. This was very, very powerful. It spoke tremendously to me. And she has arrived, which is great. Well, let me just welcome her in just a second. I will come back to that, and give me 2 seconds, and she will be joining us. We have a very special guest and friend, Ruth Guggenheim, who is the Director of Interfaith Relations and she is joining me now. She's the director, as she comes in, she's the director of international interfaith relations for Emunah Israel. Emunah is one of Israel's largest social service NGOs, serving Israel's neediest children and families. For over 90 years, Emunah has been looking after children that have been orphaned, abandoned, abused, and neglected in their residential children's homes. Ruth is on the ground in Jerusalem, where she lives. Welcome, Ruth, and thank you for joining us. I hope you can hear me, and I'm trusting we'll be able to hear you too.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It is wonderful to hear your voice. How many times have you been down to the bomb shelter this evening?
Well, no, nothing today. It's been very quiet in Jerusalem. And last night we had two false alarms, basically. So, we get this pre-warning, and we did that at 1 and 1:30, and there was a lot of activity in the country. But here in this part of Jerusalem, it was basically quiet. Thank God.
Well, thank you for joining us. I hope that we're not interrupted in the process. But of course, Israel has been at war since October 7th, 2023. The world saw that as being principally at war with Hamas. But Hamas is funded and undergirded by Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and the IRGC, the Iranian regime. And of course, things have escalated this week with Iran. What has it been like for Israelis to live through these Iranian missile strikes? And I know it's been quieter today, thank God, and a little bit quieter with the false alarms yesterday. But there was a time when it was really raining down on you, wasn't it?
Well, and it still is in certain parts of the country. I mean, again, Jerusalem may be semi-quiet right now, thank God, but as I'm sure most of your listeners, and you for sure, Stephen, are following in the north and Tel Aviv, Haifa area, Ashkelon, those areas, Petah Tikva, are very, they're constantly under attack, and those are where most of the unfortunate fatalities have happened and the wounded, and that hasn't really changed. Though just within the past hour, Home Front Command is taking us from the highest alert to the one step lower. So tomorrow, God willing, if everything stays calm, relatively calm, we're going to have at least some ability to do some things and a little bit more freedom.
So tell me about your reality. Running to bomb shelters is stressful, even for the healthiest of families. But this is a stage of war that's affected already vulnerable families. And of course, we don't, if we're one step removed, we don't tend to think, oh, there's somebody that's has a broken leg and they're trying to get down 3-4 flights of stairs. What's the kind of the timing of how long you've been being given to get to your bomb shelter, and what's the general feeling within the bomb shelters? Because there may be neighbors that you don't even know that you're all of a sudden stuck in a room with for hours on end. How does that kind of play out?
So I'll answer that first because, okay, first of all, my bomb shelter is, I live in an apartment downstairs from a bigger house, and the shelter is right next to my apartment. So the landlords, they actually have to come down. So they, we've been seeing each other at 1:30 in the morning, the few nights before 4:30. The landlord, the woman, her name is Tirza, she's actually been sleeping now in my guest room because it's too difficult for her to go back up the 2 to 3 flights of steps every few hours. So I said, sleep here, then you can just go 2 rooms over to the bomb shelter. On one hand, it's a beautiful thing. I've had friends all over telling me how many they're meeting. My own kids are meeting friends that they never met. People who live in their building or down the block. So where my daughter lives in Efrat, for instance, they literally have to take their kids across the street. The bomb shelter is the local synagogue, okay? The small synagogue across the street. So you're talking about 2-3 o'clock in the morning. You're running across the street. Then you have to wait there for the first 3 nights. You had to wait at least an hour before the sirens, and then they said they clear. You can leave your bomb shelter now. Now they're back down to 10 minutes. So, on one hand, it gives us an opportunity to meet our neighbors, and that's always nice. On the other, it's like nobody likes to be disturbed in the middle of the night. So you have a lot of very exhausted parents, I can tell you that. The first thing you do is you get an alarm on your phone 10 minutes before the actual sirens, if the sirens are going to happen in your place. But so 10 minutes before, it'll say be prepared. You're either going to get a siren and you must enter the safe room, or you're not going to get the siren, but like it gives you a 10 minutes warning. So in the middle of the night, lets you maybe, get your act a little bit together, go get the kids or something. But it's not a lot of time, and I can tell you it really is quite stressful. But everybody here is trying to make light of it. I can send you their videos of people in huge bomb shelters. They're singing and they're dancing, and they're like, not partying but praying. They're like, they're unifying and they're praying to God and they're asking God to continue to protect us. Now, as I heard when I first got on, Amuna, as you are aware, has 5 residential homes. So all of our homes have bomb shelters, and we have been having our kids. We have, between the kids and the staff, we're talking over nearly 1,000 people between the 5 homes that have to spend literally the whole night in bomb shelters. So our kids, they don't go back to their dormitory style rooms. They have been staying in the bomb shelters all night. They made it's just easier because it's like a campus. You have dormitories that are all around, the bomb shelters in one part. So if you're on the other side of the campus, you don't want to necessarily run across at 2 o'clock in the morning. So they've all been sleeping there, and that's difficult. I mean,
So yeah, I was going to ask how are the children coping? Because of course these are children. Just for those that have never come across Emunah Angels, and Emunah is has children's homes across Israel and look after children that would be in a foster care situation globally, but in Israel it tends to be homes that are formulated, and these children live together and have all come from traumatic backgrounds anyway. And then added into that mix, of course, is what is currently going on. So how are these children responding? Obviously, I imagine there's a massive upswing of PTSD and the like when these sirens go off. What is the consequence that is being seen across the children's homes?
So it's interesting. Definitely it's much more higher anxiety right now. PTSD, acting out, wetting in beds for sure, kind of digressing in behavior. Like if you're a 9-year-old child, let's say, so there's certain expectations. Yes, these children are already traumatized and abused or orphans, so they're already dealing with mental health issues and psychological issues way before any of this happened. But you might have gotten a young person might have gotten some level of healing and comfort, and they had stopped wetting their bed, let's say, finally, and now this there's a regression for sure. But
Sure.
Stephen, this is interesting because what I'd like your listeners to remember, yes, we are at war now, and this started a little less than a week ago, but really since October 7th,
Yeah. Yeah.
our kids have been back and forth to bomb shelters every few days. Certainly some of our homes that are in the southern envelope, closer to Sderot and to the Gaza Strip, to Gaza, these are children that have experienced things way before even October 7th. There were balloons, there were always missiles, there were always rockets. I think people in the States can't fully appreciate what it's like here on the ground, that the day to day, there's always in certain areas fear factor that, we've got to run to a bomb shelter, or the staff or the volunteers or the adults have to get the kids there. What is amazing though, Stephen, is the resilience that even with the trauma they have and the pain and the turmoil, they're amazing. These kids are absolutely amazing because they're resilient. They're looking at the teachers. They're all listening. Yes, they all have their problems, but what we're getting feedback is none of them they're not.
We just lost you, Ruth. I don't know if that's a knockout from Israel. Hopefully she'll be back with us in just a second. Let me just see. As you can see, the internet is unstable in the Middle East. Not only there, but in Iran as well. And maybe she'll be back with us in just a moment. She may not have realized that she is frozen. So we will hopefully see her back with us. While we're waiting, if she doesn't come back to us, let me just remove her image just for a second. She'll let me know when she is back. I will read to you something that she actually sent to me, and of course we want her to be safe, and we are praying for her safety. I trust she'll be back on in a moment or so. So let's just continue. We're praying for her safety and for the safety of all those involved with Emunah and indeed all of Israel. I was going to ask her, and we may come back to this, how can we as the Christian community help in this hour of Israel's need? And what does Christian support mean to Jews living in Israel at this time? Well, For the safety of all those involved with the Emunah and indeed all of Israel, we do pray. My wife and I have had the privilege of serving as ambassadors for Christian Friends of Emunah. It's an excellent charity doing meaningful work, and if you're looking for a practical way to be a blessing to Israel at this time, donating at emunahisrael.org is a great way to do that. She is back. I'm going to let her back in, and we will wrap up our time together. Hopefully she is going to be able to join us. She's back. Your internet was knocked out briefly. I'm glad it wasn't anything more major than that. Well, I just want to come back. I've got a couple of other questions. You as a Jew and me as a Christian, how can we as the Christian community help in this hour of Israel's need?
Continue standing by us. Continue praying. I know all of you are praying as hard as you can. We need that. We need your blessings. We need your prayer. God needs to know that the Christian and Jewish community at this time are unified, standing biyachad, together.
Yeah.
And practical support is always necessary. I will tell you, Stephen, that I just got today a memo from the corporate offices. Each one of our homes have to spend an additional $1,000 a day to just feed the kids in the bomb shelters, get some more entertainment. Again, you've got 60 kids in a bomb shelter day in, day out. They eat like crazy. That's one way of placating, but they also need to buy more games and more opportunity. They don't want these kids on phones all day long. You know what I'm saying? They want to give them the games, books, additional resources, some more Bibles, some more prayer books. Your support would really make a huge difference also. Practical support.
So if you're interested, thank you, Ruth, for joining us. I'll let you go. Hopefully you will have a full night of sleep and not be interrupted by sirens. And if you do, I trust the community will be a blessing to you. And obviously you've got somebody else sleeping, I imagine, in your apartment by the sounds of it as well. So have a wonderful, restful, peaceful evening, we trust. Thank you for joining us. Emunah Angels, emunahisrael.org is where you can go to find out more information about Emunah. We really appreciate you joining us, and I will see you soon.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye. So Ruth, as I mentioned, sent me something that last week that I wanted to share with you. It was from her friend's son's unit, and it was so well said and provides us with important understanding of what has just historically taken place in the last 12 hours and why. So this is really at the very opening of all that would take place. And it said, Israel has just crossed the point of no return and entered a new era with the attack to destroy their nuclear military infrastructure and take out the senior military and nuclear leaders of the Islamic regime. This is the time for the people of Iran to rise up and overthrow the oppressive Islamic regime. While the leaders of the enlightened Western world likes to talk about dignity, human rights, and equality, they did nothing for decades to help the persecuted Iranian people and instead did big business with the Islamic regime, empowering it and screwing the people of Iran. As for us, the Jewish state, under the leadership of Prime Minister Netanyahu and the extraordinary courage of our IDF warriors, has done what no one else dared. We struck Iran hard. We didn't just talk. We didn't beg the world for help. We didn't wait for permission. We acted because the time had come. We had no choice. And we finally remembered who we are. As IDF Chief of Staff Zamir declared, we launched the offensive because the time had come. We've reached the point of no return. We cannot wait for another window of action. We have no choice. Distant and recent history has taught us that when facing ambitions to destroy us, we must never bow our heads. And from that, we fight to preserve our existence. Freedom is granted to those willing to fight for it. Let those words sink in. This is not just a military strike. This is a spiritual moment, a national moment, a historic moment, one of the most significant since the founding of the State of Israel. We are witnessing history in the making, and not the kind written by the media or manipulated by global powers. This is Jewish history, and I'll add an addendum in there. This is Christian history, the kind our grandchildren will study in the generations to come. With this strike on Iran, we are not only delivering a direct blow to the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, we are also sounding the death knell for Hamas in Gaza, The equation is simple: no Iran, no Hamas, no lifeline, no war. This is what victory looks like. And this is why I say, without hesitation, we are the generation of victory. But what makes this moment even more remarkable is what led up to it. Headlines were about Netanyahu vacationing in the north, Trump's warnings not to strike, news about the upcoming talks on Sunday, this is Sunday Post, between Iran and Witkoff. All of it was part of the plan. Deception, compartmentalization, precision. Some say that even most of the IDF was kept in the dark. Only a tiny trusted circle knew the truth. That's how serious this operation was. While the world was focused on headlines and optics, Israel was preparing one of the most sophisticated, daring, and morally justified military campaigns in modern history. We struck radar systems, we hit missile production sites, we targeted nuclear scientists while they were sleeping in their beds, we went after the IRGC and senior regime officials, and yes, we are striking their nuclear facilities. This wasn't just a message, it was a mission, one we've been preparing for over 2 decades. Netanyahu has been sounding the alarm on Iran since before most of today's experts ever heard of the JCPOA. He risked everything, even Israel's relationship with the Obama administration, to speak before Congress and tell the world the truth. And now his words are becoming action. As he just said, we have no choice but to act quickly. If we don't act now, we simply won't be here. Never again is now. We have internalized the lessons of history. When the enemy says it intends to destroy you, believe it. To the Iranian people, the day of your liberation from tyranny is closer than ever. This is the clarity we've been praying for. This is the resolve we've been begging for. And while there will be difficult days ahead, with Iran likely retaliating with missiles, UAVs, and attacks on strategic infrastructure, we are ready, we are united, and we are not alone. As the Trump administration said loud and clear, you will be alone, but not isolated. Let that be a message to every Jew, to every supporter of truth and freedom. You may feel like you're standing alone, but you are not isolated. You are part of something greater. A nation with a calling, a people with a purpose. To the world, we are done for apologizing for defending ourselves. To our enemies, you made a grave mistake waking the sleeping lion. To our children, we are doing this so you can live free without bomb shelters and rocket drills. And to our fallen, we will not stop until the mission is complete and your sacrifice is honored with victory. This is our time. This is a new era of Jews. We will defeat the Islamic regime of Iran and finally eliminate the head of the global jihadi serpent. We will remain in Gaza forever to protect our people in our ancestral land. We will implement President Trump's immigration plan for those in Gaza who do not accept our right to exist. And when the Shiite threat of Iran collapses and the Qatari-led Sunni jihadi axis begins to rise in its place, we will stand firm, holding the line not only in Gaza, but in northern Israel. In the territories of southern Lebanon and Syria, we are not retreating ever again, not from our land, not from our mission, not from our future, because Israel is not just another country. Israel is the only country in the history of the world to destroy the nuclear weapons program of 3 different enemy nations: Iraq, Syria, and now Iran. We are the front line against the Red-Green Alliance out to destroy the whole freedom-loving world in the name of Allah. We are the tip of the spear confronting Islamo-Nazi evil. We are the shield of the freedom-loving world. The world may not always stand with us, but we will always stand for them. And with patience, unwavering belief in God, and deep confidence in ourselves, we will prevail. Am Yisrael Chai, and we mean it. That came to me in day one of everything that was going on. It was just so profound in its reality of what Israel is working towards and how they are looking ahead. And I wanted to just pose a question to you as you study, and then I'm aware we're going to go over a little bit of time wise, but please stick around. In just a few moments, we're going to look at the word, what does courageous mean? But before we look at that word courageous and what it is in Hebrew, I want to just touch briefly on Jeremiah 49, verse 34 to 39. This is talking about Elam, which is a region within modern-day Iran, but this is what the Bible actually says about it. This is the word of the Lord. This is Jeremiah 49, verse 34 onwards to 39. This is the word of the Lord that came to Jeremiah the prophet concerning Elam, early in the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah. This is what the Almighty says. See, I will break the bow of Elam, the mainstay of their might. I will bring against Elam the four winds from the four quarters of heaven. I will scatter them to the four winds. And there will not be a nation where Elam's exiles do not go. I will shatter Elam before their foes. Before those who want to kill them, I will bring disaster on them, even my fierce anger, declares the Lord. I will pursue them with the sword until I have made an end of them. And then this is the key verses, the most beautiful verses in this passage. I will set my throne in Elam and destroy her kings and officials, declares the Lord. Yet I will restore the fortunes of Elam in days to come, declares the Lord. This scripture hasn't been fulfilled historically. Could this prophecy be now and for our time? Is this bow of Elam being broken actually the nuclear program that is going to be destroyed? And is it mere coincidence that tomorrow, as we mentioned early in the show, is the 23rd of Sivan, when Israel actually, with the signet ring of Iran, gave permission to all of the Jews across the 127 provinces of Susa of Babylon to protect themselves? Well, it's an opportunity for us to be courageous. What does courageous mean as we wrap our time up together? Well, the word is amidst. It's a Hebrew verb that means to confirm, to be courageous, and in parentheses of good courage, steadfastly minded, strong, stronger, establish, fortify, harden, increase, prevail, strengthen, make strong, conquer, make haste, and to take courage. It encapsulates the sense of being alert, physically on foot or mentally in courage. This was the refrain repeated over and over about the Israelites going in to live in the promised land. Be strong and amidst, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Then Moses summoned Joshua and said to him in the presence of all Israel, be strong and amidst, for you must go with this people into the land that the Lord swore to their ancestors to give them, and you must divide it among them as their inheritance. Deuteronomy 31, verse 6 and 7. Be strong and courageous, be strong and amidst, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Be strong and very amidst. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. That's Joshua 1, verse 6 and 7. One is able to find the amidst necessary to do hard things when they know that God is with them. Then amidst leads to action. It's not passive. David also said to Solomon his son, be strong and amidst, and do the work. That means like do the act. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord God, my God, is with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. That's found in 1 Chronicles 28, verse 20. God can amidst. He can encourage and strengthen his people in preparation for action. His people, this is Isaiah 41, verse 10, says, so do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will amidst you, which means to strengthen, fill you with courage and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. That's Isaiah 41, verse 10. Amidst, courage is synonymous with determination and a perseverant intentionality. When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined, courageous, amidst to go with her, she stopped urging her. Isn't that interesting? Ruth 1:18, where Ruth's name means friend, and she has a choice, and she says, your people shall be my people, your God, my God. And that challenge is before every Christian across the nations. Are we going to identify ourselves with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel, or are we going to go back to that which does not recognize that? There's a word ma'amatz. It's the noun closely related to amatz that means effort, strain, or exertion. It's not automatic. Amatz doesn't come automatically. There is an act involved. It takes effort and strain and determination and cooperation with the Lord. It reflects strength of character and faith and intentionality. There are other words from the same root family name which mean valor, bravery, to support, and to endeavor. And in relation to the biblical word amatz, you can visualize the strength and uprightness of a mighty oak, standing tall, with deep, sturdy roots, fortified against the storms that may come against it. Isaiah 44 verse 14 says, he takes a cypress or an oak, and he amatz, secures it, and lets it grow up strong among the trees of the forest. That's Isaiah 44, verse 14. Since October 7th, the IDF is officially fighting its longest battle in modern history. The IDF is exhibiting a noble and astounding level of resilience, determination, bravery, and strength, called by the commanders of the generation of lions. That's what the name is that they have been given, the generation of lions, called by those in the nation. They were known as the TikTok generation. They've stepped up to the plate. They are fighting not just for Israel's sake, but indeed for the sake of the whole world, even for the sake of the Iranian people who desperately need freedom from the oppressive regime that has suppressed and mistreated them since 1979. The amatz is the reality. This is amatz. This is what they are called to do for the sake of the whole world, even for the sake of those in the West. It's the right thing to do. In the West, we have the luxury, if you like, of, or is it actually a hindrance, of convenience. The luxury of convenience and comfort, and often a life wrapped in bubble wrap or cotton wool. So much in our life is handed to us on silver platters with little exertion. Nowadays, not only do we not have to grow our own food, as so much of humanity has done for thousands of years, but we don't even have to get up off the sofa to purchase it. With the click of a button, our food arrives clean and nicely packaged on our front porch and ready to eat. We can even order a fully cooked meal to be delivered. While I am thankful for these time-saving opportunities, it is not a bad thing to need to put effort into something. It builds our character, our trust in God, and our appreciation of what we have. It's something that we seek to install in all of our children, this character that is required. God is concerned with character, not just culture. He wants to be those who, he wants to see us develop the character to be as the Messiah, to have the tenacity, the courage, the characteristics of the evidence of God at work in our lives. We can distinguish between what is of God and what is not simply through the evidence of the fruit of the Spirit in our lives, or the lack thereof. In the West, it has been easy for many to forget that freedom is not free, that the freedom we have is because of the amatz, the courage and the sacrifice of the generations that have gone before us. And friends, right now, even this week, Israel is doing a huge service to mankind, one that we do not fully comprehend, saving the world from an impending nuclear holocaust. It cannot be easy to risk their own lives and the lives of their people to preempt a nuclear way, but they are being strong and courageous. And I do believe, personally, that God is with them and giving them miraculous success to knock out this regime of terror based in Iran that for decades has been mocking God and his people. A regime that has embodied that spirit of violent anti-Semitism, a regime whose leaders have been echoing the evils, leaders of old from Psalm 83, who said of Israel, "Come, let us destroy them or wipe them out as a nation, so that Israel's name is remembered no more." We are seeing God's judgment upon Iran as Israel faces off against them. Iran has oppressed their own civilians and been the biggest world sponsor of terrorism, and now the IDF has full control over their skies and is systematically dismantling their nuclear program and their evil leadership. Iran is learning the principles of Galatians 6 verse 7. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a person sows, this he will also reap. Iran has sown violence and conflict around the world, and now they are reaping it. Let us pray for Israel, that they will continue to be strong and courageous and successful in battle. Of course, let's also pray for the safety of all the innocent civilians caught in the crossfire on both sides. Let us pray for quick recovery of all of the injured and pray for God's great comfort for the bereaved families. May God heal, comfort, and protect his people, Israel. And also, let's pray for ourselves, for the church, that we will have a new holy boldness and bravery and new determination in serving the Lord in the spheres where we are called and in the assignments we have been given. Ephesians 6 verse 11 says, put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. And 1 Corinthians 16 verse 13 says, be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. Let's continue to be in prayer, friends. Shalom and God bless. I'm Stephen Briggs, and this is Israel Matters. Be sure to click that like button and to subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with the situations happening in the Middle East.